Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about, well, kind of the basics of re-envisioning your life. So let's get started. If you like what you hear tonight, please send me a like, subscribe, send me a message, tell your friends, get the message out to other people. Tonight, we'll be talking about some of the specifics, including some upcoming webinars and challenges, things like that. But the big thing is, remember last week we talked that we can do and change and improve how we interact with life and maximize our satisfaction and enjoyment of all our years, actually, our older years, but our younger years as well. Tonight, we'll focus on two different areas. And the first is how we talk to ourselves. And then we'll also talk a little bit about our relationship with money, because the two are kind of interrelated. But the first is how we talk to ourselves. Most of us, to some degree or other, land on having kind of a fairly good relationship with ourselves publicly, but behind the scenes, right, it often doesn't look very pretty. It can range from little negative self-talk, like that was a stupid thing to do, or say, or think, or whatever, to major kind of talk downs where we really take ourselves to task for all sorts of things. And probably most of them aren't really justified. But how do we get into that kind of habit of saying negative things to ourselves, or about life and our decisions? Usually it comes from failed expectations, missed goals, criticism, or judgment by others, and a variety of sources that we've interpreted in a negative way. But what about when we really do something as, not very smart? Well, that, my friends, is called life and learning. I've, told many people that if you have nothing in life to be embarrassed about, ashamed, or even ashamed of, that you probably haven't been living life to the fullest. And what I mean by that is when you try and live life to the fullest extent you're able to, well, you're probably often doing new things in which you don't have a lot of experience or maybe no experience whatsoever. And when you do something new, sometimes you make mistakes and you do things that in hindsight weren't really such a great thing to do. Whether, it's entering that hot dog eating contest to impress your date or trying to get a suntan in one day just before you can go on vacation, your intentions were probably good, but the results were not all that good. And while you may have been criticized and ridiculed about it, and your brain, of course, which is always trying to keep you safe, focused on the criticism, what it forgot was the potentially good intentions with which you started that action. After you do that a few times, remember that repeated outcomes from actions then become beliefs in your brain. And voila, you now have the root of many of the common negative self-talk things that people use. Things like, I always fail at new things. I can't learn anything new. I'll never be pretty. I can never be funny. And there's a million more just like them. But what's the reality? And this is really important. The reality is I took a chance outside my comfort zone for a good reason, and it didn't work out like I expected, and I learned a lot from it. That's a way different way of thinking than something negative, isn't it? And the people criticizing you, did they even try to do something new? Or did they just kind of timidly sit back and when you did something, they looked for an opportunity to criticize you, they kind of make themselves feel better? Now who's the silly one? Is it you for trying to improve yourself and learn something new? Or is it all the naysayers who didn't even have the courage to try and help you? Well, it's pretty obvious that when you sit back and really look at it, that was you who really took the chance to expand your life, and it's you who's making progress, and it's you who's the winner. Because taking reasonable chances is what opens up life's opportunities for us to discover them. So that's the first thing, is that when you're tempted to criticize yourself with negative self-talk, try to step back a second and go back to the reason that you're saying, and remember why it even seemed like a reasonable action, and then learn from that, and then use that new knowledge to improve yourself. But the next aspect of negative self-talk is the environment. Very often we find ourselves in very negative environments. Maybe everyone at work is mad at something at work, or of somebody at work, or maybe everyone at your club is mad about the new person who joined, or that the dues went up, whatever it is. Maybe everyone on social media, for example, is mad at everything. But that's a whole bigger topic, and we'll talk about that separately. But in all these cases, step back for a minute and really listen to see if it's really everybody or just a few loud voices. In most situations, only a few people really kind of drive any narrative, no matter how big or small it is. Don't confuse a loud or frequent message with being true or common. Just because a few people are repeatedly saying it or saying it loudly with great passion doesn't make it true. Look at the facts yourself. And even if their complaints are true for them, are they true for you? If someone doesn't like the new work schedule, but it actually kind of much more convenient for you, then don't let other people's negativity distract you from the things that you like about a situation. What's needed is a course in self-talk mastery. Can't even say the words. And indeed, we're putting one together, just a little short course on how to actually kind of get past that, because it's gotten really common in these days. And I said I wouldn't talk about it much, but in reality, social media plays a big part of this, because you can always turn on your computer and immediately feel miserable. And we're going to talk about how to avoid that. But more on that later. The basics are really what we said above. Don't let others control your feelings about a situation. Don't get fooled into thinking something is more common than it is because a few people are complaining loudly and often. Don't, be overly hard on yourself when you're honestly making a good effort to do something and achieve something new, but you just, try to improve yourself and it didn't work out quite like you expected. Recognize the mistakes often happen because you're trying new things or new ways to do things that you've already done before. Celebrate the knowledge and learn from it. Don't be ashamed of it. Self-talk mastery comes with practice. And like all life changes, it takes some time. But it is entirely possible, and it will help lay the foundation for all the rest of the steps towards happiness and just feeling content in your life. And that's a very important thing to note. Now, while we have been talking about negative self-talk in general, since we're kind of creative humans, we always come up with new ways to beat ourselves up. We usually have a wide variety of topics in which we're self-critical about. It could be health negative self-talk or relationship negative self-talk, and especially financial and money negative self-talk. They all follow the same patterns for the same reasons, and they can be addressed in similar ways. But financial and money negatives, and that negative self-talk that comes from that, deserves a special mention because money problems, for example, are so common that they're actually responsible for roughly half or actually even more of divorces. Clearly, this is something we're really good at when it comes to being negative on ourselves. And we'll devote one or more episodes to the financial aspects of negative self-talk and ways, of course, to approach it and to mitigate it and kind of reduce it. And it's also really important as we age, because usually at that period of time, our incomes are going down. And so it's very easy to double second guess ourselves and really double down on the negative self-talk. But the very quick overview is that most often issues arise because we aren't comfortable talking about the money or about the situation. And, and we're not comfortable talking how we're doing with money. So this leads to unexpected revelations, which lead to stress, and that's kind of generally a bad outcome. The first rule, as always, is to try and treat money like any other awkward subject. Just start talking about it, as soon as you can and as honestly as you can. And in many cases, you realize that it isn't the money per se that's the issue, as it's a priority issue. This naturally kind of ties back to our core topic of re-envisioning your life and goal setting. When you've defined your vision and started setting goals towards your vision, then it becomes much easier to start reviewing your actions, including spending of money, in terms of whether something you're considering is consistent with your goals and vision, or it's not. It kind of, once you are able to do that, then suddenly many money spending issues will start to get smaller because you realize that the expense really isn't worth it to you once you consider it in terms of its real value to you. That, like I said, this is a whole big topic, and we'll not only cover it, but we have some great speakers lined up to come and be interviewed on the show, which I'm really excited about. But it also kind of ties into the whole subject of the psychology of money and financial therapy. All that's for another day, but it really is a big topic, and it really is driven by the same things, but just because of the way our society is structured, it tends to take on this kind of oversized importance in our lives. So the big takeaway for tonight is to manage your negative self-talk. And two of the best ways to do that is to remember that most things with negative outcomes started off with good intentions. So remember the good intents, and then also the lessons that you learned when things didn't go quite as you expected. The second lesson is to try and avoid or manage situations and environments where negativity is common. You can't always avoid them, obviously, but sometimes you have to be there, like work. But when you do have to be in them, remember to kind of be discerning about what you accept and what you discard from what you're hearing. A lot of people say a lot of things, a lot of it in anger. It doesn't mean that all of it's true, and you don't have to accept it all. So that's it for the evening. As always, I'm sorry, I almost forgot your homework tonight is about, think about one or two common things that you say to yourself that kind of have a negative slant to them, and just, as your negative self-talk, and just write them down. So you kind of become aware of them, kind of do a best 2 or 3 of, and then extra points if you're still remember how they got started. So look at them and say, I wonder where that came from. Why did I start saying that to myself? And then try and rephrase them as a positive, emphasizing what you've learned from them and how you can avoid making those same mistakes again. We all make mistakes, and a natural reaction is to be kind of critical of them and of ourselves when they happen. But we learned how to do that. We can unlearn how to do it and learn to do different things in its place and say something positive and redo something that we're not happy with the outcome. So now, as always, please remember all the many situations in the world, the wars going on, stress, there's a lot to be aware of and a lot to be concerned with. UKR7.com is our link to places that support the people of Ukraine. Very, very important, big topic for me. Then, of course, there's World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. They work in disaster areas, usually one of the first people on, if not the first people in, providing food and services to the local people. 2 great, WCK.org, great organization, UKR7, links to great organizations. And we also, remember there's always charities and services and groups and things all around you to help you with things and help people in your local community as well. It doesn't have to be a big national organization. That's one way, but local communities help also. And as we always talk about, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. And so even if it's not something where right now you feel you're able to either give time or money, or you're just not in the mindset to do that, just something simple. See somebody in the street, smile at them, just say, wish them good morning, whatever. Just recognizing that somebody can change their day, can change their life, and possibly in ways you can't even imagine. So again, UKR7.com, WCK.org, just smile at somebody. You have in your power the ability to change somebody's day for the better. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along, and please subscribe and hit that like button. If not, drop me a comment as to what other topics you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path of true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.